शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः यश्छन्दसा मृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया आस्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासं शरीरं मे विचर्षणं जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवं ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिवा कीर्तिः पृष्ठं गिरेरिवा ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वमृतमस्मि द्रविणगुंसवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इतीर्थशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः आप्यायन्तु मम अङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुः श्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्यां मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्म एधि मेदस्य म आनीस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनादितेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्माम् अवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तगुंहदेवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः नारायणं पद्मभुवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं चत्तपुत्रपराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रमथास्य शिष्यं श्रीशङ्कराचार्यमथास्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तं तोटकं वार्तिककारमन्यानस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततो मानतोऽस्मि। In the last class, we had started on Adhyaya 1, Pada 2, and Adhikarana 1. So 1 to 1. So for the remaining classes, we will put these titles on the top of the classes. So if you have to refer back, you can see exactly which Adhikarana and which Pada we are taking, which Adhyaya we are taking. So Adhyaya, Pada, and Adhikarana is the way we will structure it. So we are already started talking about the first Adhikarana of the second Pada. So in the second Pada, just as a revision, here the commentators have said that the second and the third Pada is what is called Aspashtalinga Vakyani. Brahma Bodhani. They are all talking about Brahman because there's only one subject in the whole Brahma Sutra and one subject in our whole life. Really, there's only one main subject that we have to get to know. We are at this point divided in our attention into various subjects. And how the subjects all relate to each other, we're not sure. We try to make a sense out of it in terms of our relationship with the world outside, relationship with our own family and guru and all those kinds of things. So there are various subjects that we are doing. But the thing that we need to understand is that sure, we can continue to explore our relationship with various subjects, but it should be as an aspect of a search for the one subject that we should really be very clear about. Because there is only one subject. One subject means one person, one topic, really speaking, one vastu, which is Parameshwara, which is Brahman. And so we don't know that. And so we don't know what else to do. Whatever we see in front of us, we try to make the best of it. But in and through all this in our life, there is only one subject, one goal, one objective, whatever you may want to call it, one reality, which is Brahman, which is myself, not the way I look at myself, but the way I am. This being the topic, it's the question is, as the Brahma Sutra tries to direct our attention towards this one topic, how does it do it? And so, in one way of looking at it, so this is what is called Spashtalinga Vakyani and Aspashtalinga Vakyani. So the first Pada, starting with the 4 sutras that we did, Athato, Brahma Jigyasa, etc., was called the Spashtalinga Vakyani. Spashtalinga Vakyani really means, I think, the best way to translate that into English, I was just thinking about it, is explicit reference. Spashta means clear, obvious. Linga means that one that gives you the hint towards how to think about it, how to identify it. Lakshana, Pramana, we saw all of that. So the Lakshana and Pramana were Spashta. Spashta means very explicit. The second and the third Padas that we are now looking at is called Aspashtalinga Vakyani. So that means implicit, not explicit. That's the way to look at it. So in the very first Pada, really every topic, every Adhikarana, we didn't do all the Adhikaranas, we only did 4 of them. I think there were 11 altogether in the first Pada. explicitly reference Brahman. So there is no doubt about it, no, you cannot have any sandeha, no doubts or anything. But in the second and the third, as we will point out, there are doubts whether Brahman is the main topic or not, even though the whole Brahma Sutra is really called Brahman Sutra. Brahma Sutra. Still, people say no. And the Brahma Sutra, of course, is an abstract of the Vedas, as you know very well. We have talked about this so many times, that this is not the brainchild of Vyasacharya, but in fact, Vyasacharya, as he has done in the as called Veda Vyasa. So the whole composition of the four Veda also is an editorial. The author is Parameshwara, but the editor, in order to make it simpler for the human beings to grasp the truth, is Veda Vyasa, is Vyasacharya. Furthermore, he composed the Brahma Sutra not as a general Veda, but as a very logic-oriented, focused view of what Brahman is. This is what Brahma Sutra is. So all of it is really Brahman. But people still doubt about it. Are you talking about this or maybe? As we will see. As we will see. And it mirrors our own experience. When we come to the Antaryami today, you will see that is this comparison between our own doubts as to how this which is the main topic of life. You see, it appears to us that you and I are the main topics. Everybody thinks that I am the main topic in life. Naturally, because I'm born, I have to take care of my life, my vision, my direction, my goals, my travels, and so naturally I am the main topic. And it turns out yes and no. As you know very well, yes and no. What do you mean by yes and no? Yes, the main topic is you, but not the way you think about who you are. In fact, the main topic is the reality of you, which is the same for the reality for everybody else, which is Brahman. So anyway, Brahman is the main topic. But the only thing is that the references are either explicit or implicit. So the second pada begins with implicit references to Brahman, as we will see, as we already have started doing it. So this is what we call aspashtalinga vakyani. Okay. All right. With that preamble, let us get into the what we already talked about in the last class. So from now on, I will simply reference the page numbers from this Hindi edition of Vaiyasika Nyayamala. So you can please follow me from there. So on this was on page 35, which said Atha means now, at this point, Prathama Adhyayasya Dvitiya Padaha, the second pada of the first Adhyaya. And in fact, it just says this very clearly. Atra aspashta brahma linga yukta vakyanam upasya brahma vishayanam vicharaha. So he says that the thinking of Brahman the Vishayanam, the topic of Brahman, is in the form of Aspashtalinga Yukta Vakyana. So we've already seen the meaning of that. So now it says, Prathama Brahmanaha eva manomayatwadi adhikaranaha sutrani. So he says the sutras, which is in the first adhikarana, is in manomayatwadi. So manomayatwadi, you don't find that in the sutra itself. Where did the manomayatwadi comes up? Where it comes up is that the Brahma Sutras are a direct reference to some place in the Vedas. See, these are Vedanta Sutrani. They are not the Kapola Kalpita, Manomaya, the Kapola Kalpita of Vyasacharya. These are not some Vyasacharya's independent work, but they keep referring to the Vedas. What are the Vedas saying? What are the Upanishads are saying? So here we will see the Manomayatwadi. This is the Adhikarana, which is Aspashtalinga Vakyani. Not clear. It doesn't say Brahma, it says Manomaya. So we will see. So that's why it is called Aspashta. So what it is saying is that this Adhikarana is referring to this topic. As you know, Adhikarana means a topic. This topic refers to the reference to the Vedas about Manomayatyadi, which we will see in a minute. And in fact, as you know, in the composition of the Vaiyasika Nyayamala author, he gives a 2-verse summary of each Adhikarana. So he says that here. Look at the first the first verse. Manomayaho ayam shariraha isho va pranamanase hridayasthiti aniyastve jivestuyena jivagaha. So here he says that if you look at the Hindi translation of that, or in fact if you look at the Sanskrit translation, the text of the Sanskrit, Chandogyasya tritiya adhyaye Shandilya vidyayam idam amnayate manomaya pranashariroho bharupaha iti tatra jivaha ishova iti sandehaha. Beautifully done. He says that this Adhikarana is concerned with the reference in the Chandogya Upanishad, in the 3rd chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad, in the discussion of what is called Shandilya Vidya. And this is Amnayate. Amnayate means that this is given in the Vedas. Very sacred. Amnaya. Amnaya is another word for Vedas. So every reference is to the original Vedas. There's no comparison to it or anything. Everything is a flowchart from the Vedas. There, in the 3rd chapter of Chandogya, there is a verse, and it actually references that. Number 14.2. Manomayaha pranashariraha bharupaha. He says that there is a reference which says that it is like a mind and prana. Mind and prana is the description bharupaha. Bharupaha means which is in the form of consciousness or light. It means light, really. As you know very well, the name of so-called India. India is just a recent name given by other, but the real name of India is Bharata. Bharata means, and in fact, Bharata means the whole country is involved in the study of knowledge. Bha means intelligence, knowledge, light. And so consciousness. So rataha. Rataha means one which is engaged in, whose main focus is. That's the name of the country, Bharata. Beautiful name. And you know our tagline of Bharata is Satyam Eva Jayate. That truth alone prevails. That's the name of the country. That's the tagline of the country. Very beautiful. So anyway, in Bharupaha, in the Chandogya Upanishad, he says in that reference in the Chandogya Upanishad, Manomaya Pranashariro Bharupaha, Tatra means Tasmin Vishaye, in that subject matter, Jivaha Ishova iti Samdeha. So the doubt is whether this reference is to the Jiva or to the Parameshwara, Ishvara. Which one is the reference? Then he says, we have kind of done this already, but I just want to revise it from that point. Iti tavat praptam. He says, this being the case, manah sarva bandhaninam jive susampadatvat. He says, the Purva Paksha says, I think it belongs to the jiva. Mana sarvadinam jive samsampadatvat. He says that this all really is the very clear reference to the jiva. How? Manasaha vikaraha manomayaha iti manasambandhaha. He says the changes in the mind, because the mind means a change. Every thought is composed of change. The main thing about mind is the way it changes things. You're saying one thing, and then the mind now takes you another subject, change. So manaso vikaraha. Vikaraha means change. It is in the form of forms. So manomayaha iti manasambandhaha. Similarly, pranaha. Pranaha shariram asya iti pranasambandhaha. And he says, not only is it very clear, there is no reference that this belongs to Ishvara. Nacha idam dvayam Ishvare susampadam. Susampadam means sushtu sampadam. It is not at all reference to the... Nowhere in the Veda says that Ishvara has manaha, Ishvara has pranaha. They all belong to the jiva. What are you talking about? It's very clear. And in fact, not only that, it explicitly negates the connection of Ishvara with prana and manaha. Apranaha hi amanaha shubhraha iti nishedhat. He says this is from the top, from the standpoint of this. Nishedha means no connection whatsoever. Absolutely no possibility of it, because it says apranaha hi amanaha shubhraha. So everything about manaha, pranaha, etc. should belong to the jiva. And this is what we also think. So really the Purva Paksha simply solidifies our own doubt. It's not as though it is some kind of a strange Purva Paksha. This is our Purva Paksha, our doubt. And then he explains it, tatha Esha me atma antarhridaye aniyan iti shruyamanam hridaye avasthanam aniyastvam cha niradharasya sarvagatasya cha katham ita upapadyate. Beautiful. He says, listen, all over our Vedas there are reference to antaratma hridaye, aniyan, one which is very, very, this is what is called Dahara Vidya, Dahara Vidya means that inside your own mind, your own hridaya, your own heart, you have thoughts that emanate. And then the prana works with the mind because all the breathing that makes the mind possible, makes the mind function. Where does it all happen? In the jiva. So he says, Esha me atma antarhridaye aniyan. Iti shruyamanam. This is heard. Hridaye avasthanam. Aniyastvam cha. Then niradharasya sarvagatasya katham ita upapadyate. And so this is, so in the analogy of what we say, as you say that the pollution and all the dust and so on and so forth belongs to Vayu. How can it be in the Akasha? It cannot be in the space. This is the type of argument he's saying. Katham upapadyate. How is that possible? So this is, and then he sits down. This is kind of like a lawyer who argues, as Swami Dayananji so nicely pointed out, that this is really just like a argument between lawyers on the two sides. And then somebody has to sort of sit down and say, out of these two, one person has to say this, the other person says this, which is the truth? And so this is what the sutras are all about. So he says, Tasmat jivehe iti prapte brumaha. We say this. This is the samadhanam. So siddhantaha, purvapaksha siddhantaha. And here is what he is saying. He says, no. You are not correct, my dear. I am sorry. This is not the way it is. Why? Sarvam khalu idam brahma tat jalaniti shanta upasita. I'm trying to see exactly from which Upanishad this is. It's not mentioned here. So even I don't remember exactly which Upanishad. This is an Upanishad statement, of course, but a very often quoted one. Sarvam khalu idam brahma tat jalaniti shanta upasita. Probably Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, I would say. Anyway, he quotes this verse. And so here it says Sarvam tat jalaniti. Everything in the world is born out of Brahman. It stays in the Brahman alone. It is supported by Brahman. And it goes back into Brahman. And so the word Tat Jalan is a very interesting word. I happened to look at my notes from the 2002 Anaikatti meeting from Swami Dayananji, and he had spent some time discussing this. So he says, because they were all Sanskrit scholars, and so anytime there was a chance to sort of remove some doubts about how these words Jalan come about, they would just pounce on it. And at that time, even my Sanskritam was better. I was following Panini and so on. Now it has become rusty. I just have the overall sense, but I don't know all the grammatical rules. But anyway, Tasmat Jayate Tad Jam. So Jalan consists of three aspects of it. jam, tasmat jayate, from which it is born, is called jam. Tasmin liyate tat lam. The one that it dissolves in, goes back into, is called lam. Tasmin tishtati tad anam. So where is the anam? There is no anam here. So then Swami Dayananji explained that due to some Panini lopa, avyaya lopa, the anam gets elided, but the meaning is there. So this is what's called Shaka Parthiva Nyayena Madhyama Pada Lopa. This is a technical thing about thing. Anyway, leave aside all those details. Tat Jalan means the one which is the source of everything. Everything comes out of Brahman, very much like our dreams also. Really, the whole dream comes out of your consciousness and plays in the consciousness, even when it is apparently there, when it is present, either delighting you or bothering you or whatever emotions it creates in you. All of those forms. The dream is just an amazing phenomenon and very important for the sadhaka to really think about. I tell you, this is a very important thing where you need to compare your waking experience to the dream experience always. Always. The dream comes up, plays for a while and dissolves. And the Jagrata Avastha, the waking space, is exactly the same, with one difference. It goes on for a long time and it obeys the natural laws of Ishvara. Obeys the natural laws means that if you get married, let's say, if you start a relationship and you get married or anything, any kind of relationship, then day to day there is some sameness. You don't wake up in the morning and your spouse says hello to you and you say, "Who are you?" That doesn't happen. So there is some continuity, some sameness. So there is a slight difference in that sense. But for all intents and purposes, especially to a Vedantin, a sadhaka, the dream and the waking are identical. Anyway, so Tat Jalan means just like in the dream, it comes out, stays there and goes into it. Similarly, the whole creation, Sarvam, if there was any exceptions to that, it would have said Sarvam and then starts with a parentheses and say except for. No, there's no exception. Sarvam khalu idam. Khalu actually means indeed, without any doubt. Don't even question it. Question it at your own peril, because you'll just delay your own understanding. Khalu sarvamidam brahma tat jalaniti shanta upasita. And may you may do upasana with a quiet mind. See this fact. Because if the mind is not quiet, it doesn't quite accept it. Really? Everything comes out of Brahman alone? How is that possible? All the conflicts and so on and so forth going on in this COVID and Russia and so on and so forth, they seem like have different bases and so on. No. It is all a big play and it will just collapse again back into Brahman. So he says, anyway, I think what I will do is not spend as much time because I want to go to the next one, which is Antaryami. What time is it? 8:34. We do have enough time. So anyway, he analyzes with this verse, Sarvam khalu idam brahma tat jalan iti shanta upasita iti etat asmin shama vidhi pare purva vakye shruyamanam yad brahma tadeva manomayah prana shariraha iti etabhyam taddhita bahuvrihibhyam visheshatvena apekshyate. He says that basically whatever it is described, it really goes into the final aspect of this. You cannot stop at the jiva. It's not stop at the jiva, it has to go all the way up to the very vastu itself. So in our understanding, really speaking, all the modifications of an ornament and that gold is a very simple example, but supposing it has some, just like, for example, electrical appliances. Electric appliances is a very good example of this. Why? Because in the case of gold and ornaments, there is no action, there is no light being emanated, there is no heat. It's just a very simple example and it's a very useful example. But the example of appliances is really even more telling, because the light of these lamps, the heat generated, the air conditioning, does that belong to what is the source of it? Does that belong to the appliance itself, the mahima, the glory? Does that belong to or does it belong to the electricity? It appears it belongs to the appliance, but it doesn't. It doesn't. It is simply emanating it from the electricity. The only thing is that the appliance has the ability to reflect the electricity. That's it. In fact, it's interesting if you look at, supposing you say you hold up this and you say, what is this? And then you say it's a cell phone. Are you sure? Can you completely say that cell phone? Yeah, it's a cell phone. Yes, of course. So it has this dimension, and this is a Google Pixel. So it's a Google Pixel, whatever it is, and so on. And so that's what it is. He says, can you please completely describe it? Everything that it has, can you please describe it? What is this? And say, yeah, I've already told you this. This is what it is. There's nothing more than I need to know. There's some internal details, but this is a Google Pixel. Do you know? It is a light falling on this. That is also part of this form. You've forgotten that. If it was a complete darkness, all the lamps were out, like it was a couple of 2-3 hours ago when I woke up, complete darkness in the home. There's no phone or anything. In fact, you have to look for it, because I have a couple of places where I keep charging my phone and I keep forgetting where I did it. And so when I wake up in the morning, I don't see the phone anywhere. Why? Because it may be there, but there is no light falling on it. So really, the glory belongs to the electricity. So that is the argument here also. That really the glory, the Mahima, belongs to Brahman. So even when you say Manomaya, etc., etc., it does not belong to the Jiva. It belongs to Ishvara alone. This is the Siddhanta. So it says, Tasmat sarvamidam brahma tad jalatvat layatvat. There it explains all the three aspects of tad jalan. Tasmat sarvamatmake brahmani ragadvesha vishaya asambhavat upasti kale shantaha bhavet. Anyway, this explains the sentence Shanta Upasita means may you just do Upasana on the Brahman alone. That is the main topic in our life. This is what I think needs to happen for all of us. If I can just take a break from this. And that is that, and I don't want to really go over this, I already stated that before. The main thing we need to graduate to, what we need to really understand and we need to come up to that point, graduate to, is that there is only one topic. And that's a topic that I am oblivious to at the moment. And it's not as though the other topics are not have to be completely forgotten. That does happen in Jivan Mukta. And even in a Jivan Mukta, you have to do your Sharira Yatra still. You have to still eat and go to the bathroom and all those kinds of things. Only in Videha Mukti is your total focus. But for all intents and purposes, for a Jivan Mukta, there is only one topic, which is Brahman. Everything else becomes an expression of it. This is what we need to really to do. Or when we get there, it's up to you. We all have our own way of getting up there. Very few of us are really focused on that. But this is what it means, a search for God, search for Parameshwara. And so he says, Shanta Upasita. May you reflect on it with a calm mind. Sarvam Kaluidam Brahma Tat Jalaniti. So anyway, so he says that all this Manomaya, Pranamaya, etc. ultimately belongs to Brahman alone, not to a Jiva. This kind of a discussion, this kind of a setting up of the Purvapaksha and Siddhanta is throughout Brahma Sutra. This is very interesting that in this contest, this is a contest. Contest means that there is a doubt whether I think it belongs to me. I am the Jiva, so the Manaha belongs to me. This will become, when you go to Antaryami, you'll become even clearer. This kind of a contest is occurring at all 555 sutras. In the end, it is all Brahman alone wins. It's kind of like a case, Supposing you don't know, there are many cases in the Supreme Court, you don't know who's going to win. But in the Supreme Court of the Supreme, the real Supreme Court, of the world, of the whole Jagat, Brahman always wins. It's interesting to look at it this way. There was I had a interesting, unpleasant experience, I would say. So I took a course in I forget some math course at part of my graduate degree at Berkeley, because my my advisor had told me that you are deficient in the following things. He looked at my undergraduate from India and he says, yeah, you've done this, but have you taken this kind of a course? I said, no. So he says, I think you should take it. It turns out it was an undergraduate course. So I took that course, a math course. And one of the subjects was prove the following equation. And it had there was an equation given, had a bunch of things on the left hand side of the equation, bunch of things on the right hand side of the equation. He says, please prove it. And I really didn't know how to do it, quite frankly. I had not really understood the issues and so, for whatever reason. And so I did the best I could. And then I said, but here is the thing. It is the left side equals the right side. I got a big 0 on that. I still remember. In fact, in one of the midterms, I got a C. I was shocked. I've never got a C before in my life. But what it says, so this is interesting. The answer we have is already given to us. Tat tvamasi. This is the answer. This is the equation. You, the jiva, who you think is a samsari, beset with all the problems, struggling, having a limited body mind with limited time, equals Brahman, Ishvara, that has no problems, which is independent of time, independent of space, happy, never beset with any problem. These two are equal. This is the equation. So the equation is already given to us. Just like in that, my getting a C in that math problem. Equation is given to us. It's not as though we have to say, because otherwise we don't even know what the two sides are. Let alone the equation, we don't know how to even formulate the problem. So the problem is formulated, equation is given, but simply to see that these two are equated doesn't do anything for me. Because exactly it is that the jiva equals Ishvara. This is the equation given to us. Tat tvamasi. Ayam atma brahman. Brahmasmi. Aham brahmasmi. All of these are equations, mahavakyas. So this is given to us. But it doesn't really do anything to me. You know why? Because I don't know how to solve it, the equation. So my math teacher wanted me to solve the equation, not to reiterate that the equation is true. And I didn't do it. This is our issue in life. We don't know how to solve this. Equation has to be provisionally accepted, but only when the solution. How is it that this jiva with all the issues? So then the various examples are given that listen, if you have a room space and a total space, the two are essentially the same. In fact, they are the same. It's the same Akasha that, through such examples, I have to slowly see, yes, it's absolutely true. And so this is the whole thing is. This is what we have to see. So, anyway, going back to it, the equation always wins. Brahman always wins. Am I the Jiva or am I Brahman? The answer is Brahman. As we will see in the next few minutes, am I the Antaryami or is Ishvara the Antaryami? Ishvara is the Antaryami. So in really all the 555 sutras, the answer is already given to you. Not as though you have to, the Vedas, this is what it's saying, there's only one Ekatmavada. There's only one Atma. There's one source of consciousness. One consciousness, in fact, not only one source of consciousness, one consciousness. Only one consciousness. That one consciousness is available in different forms, as you and I and he or she, but it's one consciousness. So that being the case, that is the ultimate answer in all cases. So these kinds of discussions that we are having through Manomaya, Pranaha, etc., is not as though that this would be violated. We already know who's going to win. The whole question is to be able to understand how. That's what's keeping me from becoming free in my life. So anyway, so I think I will just. I'm just giving you a sort of like a way to look at solving all of these things. It's not a question of just an academic understanding, that really in all of these Brahma Sutras, it explains the justification why the equation is correct. In all cases, the equation is correct. So with that, I think I'll just finish this first Adhikarana. The next Adhikarana that we should go to is the fifth Adhikarana of the second Pada. The fifth Adhikarana. And the fifth Adhikarana is given on page 42. Okay, on 42. So this Adhikarana, so it already says it. It says, Panchame means the fifth one, Parameshwarasya eva antaryamita. Parameshwarasya eva antaryamita adhikarane sutrani. And there are three sutras in this adhikarana called the Antaryami Adhikarana. And the first one is number 18, 19 and 20. First one is 18, second is 19, third one is 20. So he says, Antaryami Adhidaivadishu Tad Dharma Vyapadeshat. This is the first sutra in this Adhikarana. So the topic here is Antaryami. So it's interesting, we spent a lot of time on this in 2002. Swamiji had spent quite a bit of time on this. It had an effect on me. I really thought about it. It doesn't always happen, but this one really made an impression on me, and it has stayed with me. But my understanding was still not as clear as it is now. It's still getting clearer and clearer and clearer. But this is a very important topic. So, Antaryami means, well, first of all, the word Antaryami refers to the one that governs your life. The factor, the one person that, you can even say the series of factors implemented by the one person that governs your life. Ante tishtan yamayati iti antaryami. That's the technical definition of antaryami. Ante tishtan, staying inside. One that regulates your life is called antaryami. So, if you do that, let's just look at the broad picture before we get into the details. If you look at that, it is very obvious to us that I am the antaryami for my life. I am the one that has to deal with me all the time. There's no question in my mind that I am not the antaryami. It's not as though I'm all-knowing, but with whatever knowledge I have, I do the best I can. And including deciding that I can't live here anymore. Sometimes, we talked about this. It's just an amazing fact. I think I read that somewhere. We can Google it. How many suicides are committed every day in the world? Thousands. Just in one day today, many thousand people would commit suicide. Amazing. So including the suiciders, those who commit suicide, they decide, I can't hack it in this world. This isn't too much for me. I am not happy. I want to be happy, and I am not happy. So I am just now going to try something else. Death is better than living. Is a decision. This is also an antaryami. Each one of us has to decide, this is what's happening to me. This is what I really need to do. And then we get a new job. We try out a new food, new exercise, dieting, whatever it is. I am responsible for my life. So it is very clear to me that no one is the antaryami for me. People can help me. My own family can help me. My mom and dad, if they're alive, they have a lot of love for me. Spouse, children, friends, they can all do the best they can, but I am the one who is responsible for my life. I have to negotiate through this life, and I am doing the best I can. I don't always do the best thing, but whatever I have with the information, I negotiate it, and I am the antaryami. So the Purva Paksha actually it articulates this for you. Okay? This articulates. So the question is, how can there be a question to this? Who else is an antaryami? And so if you say God is the Antaryami, I'm not sure. I would like to believe it, but how? I do some wrong things from time to time. If God was Antaryami, then He would have prevented me from doing it. Why do I keep doing wrong things that hurt me? God's not looking out for me all the time. And I don't know what else to do. There's people can aid me from time to time, and even I don't know exactly all the things that are good for me, but I am doing at least the best I can. So I don't know how God is. I would like to know more about it, but at this point in time, I don't know if God is the Antaryami. Okay, so this is the court of law where I present my case and say, I am the Antaryami. Jiva is the Antaryami. And the answer is no. You are really not the Antaryami. You think you are the Antaryami, but this is not the truth. Ishvara, Brahman is the Antaryami. Really? So again, this is an equation that the Antaryami of a Jiva and the Antaryami of an Ishvara are really ultimately the same. And then I don't understand that. I don't know how to solve this equation. So here an attempt is given to present the facts to this. So one thing I would mention here is that once in a while, if you know Sanskritam, what you might want to do is to augment the Vaiyasika Nyayamala. The Vaiyasika Nyayamala, which I have mentioned to you in the last couple of classes, is kind of a shorter form of the Shankara Bhashya. Shankara Bhashya is a very detailed explanation for each of the sutras, and has this is one of the 5 or 6 books that I have. I've talked about this. Very important, very beautiful book for those of you that know Hindi, and I'm sure that other languages also have it. Not as though Hindi is superior, I just don't know other languages. But this one here this happens to be volume 2. Yeah, it's a volume 2, which is Shankara Bhashya, and we actually talked about this before. And it has Ratna Prabha, the light of the jewel, which is a great commentary on the Bhashya itself. Wherever the Bhashya is not clear, it is made clear by Ratna Prabha. And the whole thing, the translation is given in Hindi by Sri Bhole Baba. Highly regarded commentator, translator, just amazing person. And so that's all there. So what I'm saying is that on some sutras, if you want, you can stick to this abridged version, which essentially gives you the topic itself, or you can also go to the corresponding discussion in the Shankara Bhashya, which I did for this Antaryami topic. I did that yesterday also. I just looked at it. 903. Anyway, so let's go into this, and then perhaps I'll take more than one class on this topic itself, both today and next time. And this will be an interesting one for us to really wrap our minds around. So I will do both of them. I won't do this for every time, but for some important sutras that I consider to be important sutras, we might do that. So with that as the roadmap, let's go into the discussion of the Antaryami topic in the Vaiyasika Nyayamala. Okay? So here on page 43, the author presents the case. He says, Panchama adhikaranam acharayati. Panchama adhikaranam acharayati. He says, he presents, he introduces the fifth adhikarana of the second pada. Again, he does it with two verses. One is the Purvapaksha, and the other one is Siddhanta. Purvapaksha, Siddhanta, Purvapaksha, Siddhanta. This is how it does it. Pradhanam jivaha isho va kaha antaryami jagat prati karanatvat pradhanam syat jivo va karmano mukhat. This is the Purvapaksha. He says, who is the Antaryami for the whole world? Is it Pradhanam? Is it Jivaha? Or is it Ishaha? Ishvaraha? Ishaha? He says, let it be Pradhanam, because that is the Karana, that is the cause of this whole creation. Or let it be Jiva. How the Jiva? Karmanaha mukhat. Because the Jiva is the doer of various actions and the recipient of the results of the action, and so therefore it makes sense that because of the independent karma done by the jiva and also the recipient of the result of those karma, he or she has to negotiate what needs to be done. So the jiva could be one, or the basic pradhanam, which is called the nature. Pradhanam, as you know, is just as a reminder for you, we already went through this in the initial introduction to Brahma Sutra in the beginning, where we had all these 6 different schools of thought. So one of them was called Sankhya. So the Sankhya philosophy is that there are 2 factors at play that mixed up create the whole world. One is nature, pradhanam. Pradhanam means nature. Nature means all of the various things, how they evolve, how all the changes in the world that occur. Some natural laws, the suns and the moons, and how light interacts, various sophisticated kind of things that we cannot know about. And so that is what really influences our actions, our happenings, our events, all of that. So this is one thing. The other one is the independent Atma, which is not affected by anything. And because the Atma gets mixed up with Pradhanam, a Jiva is born. So in the philosophy of Sankhya, there are 2 independent factors. One is Pradhanam and one is Atma. And the thing that one has to do is to find independence from Pradhanam. And you do it through some meditation and thinking and so on and so forth. And if you do, you will regain you are already you're the Atma, you will become a pure Atma, not a mixed up Atma. So the cause of all the misery is Pradhanam, but for you to get independence from it is moksha. This is their thesis. So here, this thesis is negated by the Vedantins, and we said no, this is not true at all, for various reasons. And for one thing, you're talking about duality. You're talking about duality. Pradhanam is one, Atma is the other, and they are kind of like equals because they are all mixed up with each other. And Pradhanam is also causing problems. So it also has some consciousness in causing problem, because anything that causes a problem is consciousness. So the Pradhanam is also conscious, is causing a problem, and the Atma says no problems. So there are two independent sources of consciousness? No. You cannot have two independent sources of consciousness. So we say this is not right, because really speaking, as you know, our thesis to answer the Sankhya is that there is only one person, and that one person causes the problem to itself by dreaming. So what you call to be nature, it is simply an expression of ignorance about yourself. Ignorance causes problems. Snake, the rope and snake example. So Pradhanam is not independent. It is the light of if the dream causes a problem, it is the light of the consciousness which is making it cause problems. So it was always non-dual, and non-understanding makes it dual and plurality. This is our answer to it. So Pradhanam is not the cause for it. Anyway, so this is where it is pointed out that let the Antaryami, he says, Pradhanam Jiva Ishova. So in the first verse articulating this, he says there are three possibilities. Either the Antaryami is Pradhanam, or it is Jiva, or it is Ishvara. Out of which he says only there are two of them which are really left. Ishvara, I do not, there's no way he can be the Antaryami. He doesn't even mention it. So he says, Pradhanam Jiva Ishova Kaha Antaryami Jagat Prati. First line. Second line. Karanatvat Pradhanam Syat. Because the Antaryami means that one who has to figure out how to get out of it, what is the best thing. This is all natural laws. So let it be Pradhanam, because it is the Karana for it, is the cause for it. Or I can possibly be persuaded that, okay, it is not the nature, but the karma of the jiva that influences what you do, and therefore because of that, jiva itself, which is the doer of the karma, let him be the Antaryami. Jivo va karmano mukhat. And of course the Siddhanta, which is the second verse, is Jiva ekatva amritatvadehe antaryami parameshwaraha drashtatvat enam pradhanam na jivopi niyamyataha. And so this is the answer which we will take up next time. And what I will do is read the text. These are just the two verses, but each of the verses has a text associated with it that I will read. And then I think I will finish the meaning of the text of both the Purvapaksha and Siddhanta, but I will also go and review the Shankara Bhashya, which is given in more detail on this very important topic, and all the topics he has given it, but I think, so the next class will be hopefully we'll finish it. That will be both the Vaiyasika Nyayamala as well as the Shankara Bhashya on this very important topic as to who is the Antaryami. So with that, let me close the class and finish our prayers, and then we will see if you have any questions. Om Ashubhani Nirachaste Tanoti Shubhasantatim Smriti Matrena Yat Pumsam Brahmatan Mangalam Param Ati Kalyana Rupatvat Nitya Kalyana Samshrayat Smartranam Varadatvat Cha Brahmatan Mangalam Viduhu Omkaraschatha Shabdascha Dvavetau Brahmanaf Pura Kantham Bhitva Viniryatau Tasman Mangilikau Ubhau Omatha 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 Nam Atha Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Very nice. Nice to see you all. Couple of people that I normally don't see. Nitin Mohan. And was it somebody else? No? No. I think there's just one name that normally I don't see. Hello, Nitin. But very nice to see you all. Keshav. Amin. Antara Amin. I don't see this word Amin, Keshav. Is it Amen? Is that what you're saying? Amen? I'm not sure what you're referring to. Raj Velpuri says, in the Google digitized PDF file you sent, Antaryami verses are on page 39, slightly off from the actual book, I think. Let us see. I mean, I hope you're referring to this book here, not the original Sanskrit that I sent to you. And I had sent a correction to that from now on we will only refer to this book which has a Hindi translation of the Sanskrit. But because it has the same Sanskrit as the other one, we might as well just standardize on that. So on that, no, I don't see 39. So if this is the book that you are referring to, no, that is Adhyaya 1 on 39, Adhyaya 1, Pada 2, Adhikarana 3, whereas this page here, 42, is the Adhyaya 1, Pada 2, Adhikarana 5, which is the Antaryami Adhikarana. So I am not quite sure what our differences are. Maybe you're referring to the original book. That's possible. One interesting thing, one of our students had talked to Swami Paramarthananda and asked him about if one has to study a fewer number of sutra bhashyas, which one should they be? So he had sent her a long list, and so she was kind enough to send it to me. And what I find is that it still has so many sutras that in the time that we have, we won't be able to take it. But I will consult his suggestions on which sutras to study. And based on that, we will select that as we go forward. We have to think about once a week class and how much time this is taking. So with all of those kinds of things, we will still limit it to a fewer number. But I think that my goal is, as I mentioned to you before, that once we know exactly how to analyze these sutras, and the discussion that we had today, that Brahman always wins, the answer is always Brahman, Brahman, Brahman. This is a good hint that whatever you study, but the way of understanding is different from each verse, each sutra to sutra, each adhikarana to adhikarana. So my goal is that once we know how to analyze it, then we can close the books, because there's no way we can finish everything. That means you'll have to stay in an ashram with 3 classes a day for several months for us to do that. We can't do that. So we'll have to modify it based on our situation and then do the best we can. So I think that once we do that, you'll be pretty much on your own. So it'll work out very nicely. See if there's any other questions while I was talking. So Raj, this is also I sent you a PDF file on it. So you don't have to have this book. I'm also referring to the PDF file. I sent a note to everyone saying this was a PDF that was given to me by several students, including Chawla Joshi, and I sent that out to you. So you should have that PDF. If you look at, if you're not, then let me know. I'll send it to you again. But this book is, you don't need to have this book. You have the PDF for it. All right, with that, I take your leave. And nice to see you all. And we will hopefully see you next week. Hari Om.